Welcome to Positively Nerdy number 2, comic reviews for August 22nd, 2012. Welcome everyone to the second episode of the all-new Positively Nerdy. Thank you so much for tuning in, and, well, quite frankly, I'm at a loss as to how to start. Well, not really, I know what I'm going to start with, but this is my segue. Normally, in my comic reviews, I start off with my pick for the best comic of the week, which, since the name of the podcast has changed, I feel the name of my choice for the best comic of the week should also change. But what to call it? I don't know. I'm at a loss. I've been coming up with a few different things, nothing I really like. So I've decided I'm going to throw it out to all of you. This is going to be Positively Nerdy's first, hopefully first of many contests, where I'm going to let all of you come up with a name, or try to come up with a name, for what I'm going to call the best, what I think is the best comic of the week. And to entice you to participate, I have, of course, a prize. Every contest needs a good prize, and I feel like I do have a good prize. I don't want to announce exactly what it is, but I will give you 3 hints. Comics, obviously. This is Positively Nerdy. We talk about comics a lot, among other things. Clue number 2 is Star Wars. If there's anything I love as much as comics, it's Star Wars. And the third hint will be autograph. So comic, Star Wars, and autograph. I think that would probably be enough to entice most of you to enter. Again, what we're looking for is not a name for the podcast, but a name for when the podcast is comic reviews, I need a name for the best comic of the week. I used to call it the top of the stack. I don't want to just be boring and call it the best comic of the week. I need something clever, something fun, and whoever suggestion I pick will get the prize, which is, again, has to do with comics, has to do with Star Wars, and has to do with an autograph. So hopefully that's enough to entice you, and since the prize is Star Wars related, and this weekend is currently going on down in Orlando, is Star Wars Celebration 6, let's start with some Star Wars. It is Star Wars Darth Vader in the Ghost Prison, number 4. What I really like about this series so far is not just the presence of Darth Vader, but the perspective that this series takes. This is very much an in-the-trenches story of the people fighting the war. And we've seen the story from the literal trenches and the people fighting the war so far as in the clones fighting the war, but this is really about the people who live in this galaxy. And we don't really get enough of that. We focus on the larger-than-life villains and the Jedi and things like that, and that's where we should focus. But if you're going to take the time to tell a side story, a little 5-issue miniseries, which is exactly what Darth Vader in the Ghost Prison is, it's really fun to go beyond the norm. And this is very much about normal people, or what passes for normal in the Star Wars universe anyway, fighting in this war and kind of the remnants. This is after the Clone Wars. Obviously, we have Vader now instead of Anakin, or I should say Vader in costume, because I think he became Vader before he got the costume on, but that's a debate for another day. The Ghost Prison that the title refers to is where the story in this issue starts. Vader and his companions, for lack of a better term, because Vader doesn't really have companions. Vader and the people he's hanging out with that he has not yet killed, let's put it that way, have gone to this prison as on a recruiting mission. They basically release all the prisoners, and there's a massive prison riot, and the survivors get a chance to serve Darth Vader. This is Vader kicking ass and taking names, which is a Vader we all like to see and don't get to see often enough, unfortunately. And what I really, really like about this is that I mentioned before, it captures the normal person, again, quote-unquote normal person perspective in the Star Wars universe, but it also deals with a lot of the political machinations and the political maneuvering of the galaxy after the Clone Wars. There's still a very strong separatist or Confederacy movement. A lot of people still don't like the fact that the Empire is now all of a sudden in control. A lot of people love the Empire and hated the Jedi anyway, so they're glad they're all dead. It really deals with all of those machinations and feelings and different things in a really, really great way. And maybe it doesn't deal with it in a great way, and I just want to focus on a fake political landscape instead of a real political landscape, and maybe that's what I got out of this, but that's fine too. but there's no, this isn't completely black and white, cut and dry, good guy versus bad guy, and I really, really like that. A little more ambiguous is great, and again, Vader being front and center is always terrific. This series, when all said and done, will be a great companion to last year's Darth Vader and the Lost Command, which I enjoyed a lot, and I'm enjoying this as well. So we're looking forward to how this concludes next month with issue number 5, and if you haven't been reading, Dark Horse is usually pretty timely with their trades. Might be better off just hanging out and waiting for it to be collected. Will make a great Christmas present, actually. From that galaxy far, far away, we now travel to Marvel and Venom, number 23. This is Colin Bunn's debut solo writing in the series. He's been doing a lot of co-plotting, co-scripting with Rick Remender, who launched the series. And the first half of this really feels like it's going to be a great jumping on point for new readers. A lot of people, Venom's been gaining a lot of buzz. A lot of people are looking at Venom thinking that maybe this isn't the same old thing and I should give this a try. That's entirely true. And Bunn does a great job in the first half of this issue in bringing everyone up to speed, but not in a completely boring way for the readers that have been here since issue number 1. The problem is we then get going on this story and this villain, and I'm not a huge fan. We've got an occult society and Hellstrom, the apparent son of the devil in the Marvel Universe, as our villain. And it feels very, I don't want to say Hellboy-ish or BPRD-esque, but that's kind of what we're dealing with here. We've got a secret society and the occult and things like that, and that doesn't seem to me like a villain for Venom. There was the big Circle of 4 mini-series a while back in the Venom with Red Hulk and X-23 and Ghost Rider and that was fun enough, but I kind of thought we were done with that, and we're going right back to it. Hellstrom and an occult society doesn't seem, again, like I said, doesn't seem like a really good Venom bad guy, and since their main weapon of choice is fire, it doesn't seem like a very fair fight since one of the Venom symbiote's weaknesses is fire. But Venom, in the events of the previously mentioned Circle of 4, has been marked, and he is somewhat immune to the fire, maybe not fire per se, but Hellstrom's magical satanic fire. I don't know what it's supposed to be. We've seen this with Justice League and what's the other series I'm thinking of? Batman and Robin recently, where I love the writer and I like the character and I like what's going on a broad level, but the particular villain or storyline is not thrilling me, and that's what we have with Venom right now. I can't say that I'm excited about this villain or this storyline. All I can say is that with Minimum Carnage coming up, it should be done soon. So that's good. Maybe only another issue or so. I can't remember exactly when Minimum Carnage is supposed to cross over to Venom, but it can't be soon enough. And the other thing I will say that is going to keep me going, even if this series does last like a 4-parter, is that Bunn really does have a great handle on Flash and Venom and that dynamic of Flash both hating and needing the Venom symbiote. I think that he's going to has the potential to do some terrific things, and even an issue I didn't thoroughly enjoy because of the villain, I still liked what Bunn did with Venom/Flash. That's weird to say. So there's still a lot to take out of this series, which is good, and hopefully this story will just get done in a hurry. Speaking of being in a hurry, we go on to DC and the New 52, our only stop inside DC's New 52 this week for The Flash, number 12. Good news, everyone, as Professor Farnsworth would say. I'm not going to do an impression because I'd be terrible at it. Francis Manapul is back. Yes, Manapul is back doing what Manapul does best, and that is creating exciting action sequences, doing things with his art that no one else can do. The problem over the last couple issues is that Manapul was still scripting it, and I think he's relatively new as a writer, so maybe he's still writing for himself and doesn't get that he needs to write for a different artist, because I think these fill-in artists that we've had were still trying to do a Manapul type thing, and only Manapul can do what Manapul can do. And I'm saying Manapul so many times I'm going to tie my tongue in a knot, but that's okay. However, upon Manapul's return, he's done a fantastic job of reigniting the series. There's a whole lot going on, and with Flash's powers, there need to be a whole lot going on. A bad guy can't hold an innocent person hostage because, I mean, you put it even with the gun right next to somebody's head, Flash is going to be over there and snatch the gun away from you before you know what hit you. There's just certain things that the Flash can do that make creating viable threats or things for him to overcome is not an easy thing to do. But Metapole does just that. We've got the return and the reuniting of the Rogues, a new villain who is bringing them all together, or at least to my knowledge she's a new villain, maybe she's not, but Flash didn't recognize her, so maybe just new to the New 52, or what. It's part of the problem you guys have to deal with the fact that I didn't read a ton of DC before the New 52. Flash has been framed for attacking a prominent citizen. There is a crashing monorail, and Captain Cold is battling the reunited Rogues. This is all happening at once. Flash being framed for attacking the prominent citizen is exactly the situation I was just describing, actually, where the new villain was attacking this person and no one could see her. She moves in like super slow motion or something, and Flash at his vibrating super speed could see her. It was a little weird how that was working. But basically she goes to kind of cut the guy's throat, and Flash goes to stop her. Unfortunately, he comes out of his vibrating state or whatever, and she disappears, and all the public sees is Flash holding a man whose throat has just been cut. And it's not lethal, he's still alive, but that's the big problem, because now Flash has to deal with all these other things on top of that. This scene at this press conference thinks that he just did this man is dying. Captain Cold, who's apparently not a full-blown bad guy anymore, but certainly not a good guy, certainly not above creating some collateral damage if it means taking down the reunited Rogues. You have the monorail crashing, all these things going on at once. Manipul captures it and makes it all unique and different and exciting. On top of the fact that, again, just so many things are happening, that how is the Flash possibly going to deal with this? Makes it very, very intriguing, and makes it a whole lot of fun. So Flash is back. Manipul, well, Flash never went anywhere, to be honest with you, but Francis Manipul is back, and that is very, 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 very good news. And that takes us to Ultimates number 14, written by Sam Humphries. Still very much enjoying the whole Country's Gone to Hell storyline. My absence from the Ultimate Universe appeared to be at least a little more obvious this time around. It's really not hard to tell the good guys from the bad guys. Then you've got someone that's kind of playing both sides against the middle, or more than two sides actually. He's playing several different sides against the middle, and it's fun and obvious who they are, but I did actually stop and think, like, should I know who these people are? But Humphries does a pretty good job in this issue of explaining who everyone is for the most part. It's not too hard to figure out what's going on. But unlike 13, which just so brilliantly captured the sensation new readers need, this one didn't do it quite as well. So just anybody who did come on with 13, just be aware of that fact, I think. What we have is some very, very, very reminiscent action of the feature film. We have Captain America, Iron Man, Thor, Black Widow, and Hawkeye fighting many, many bad guys at once and trying to reach a group of quote-unquote politicians. They're more like businessmen who think they're politicians because I think they're in Dallas. They're in Texas, which is technically seceded from the Union at this point. And they're trying to find these gentlemen because they have the codes to stop the nuclear bomb headed toward New York. Obviously, like I said, that sounds very much like the Avengers movie. But when Marvel launched the Ultimate line way back when, it was to capture that movie crowd. So I don't want to editorialize or make too many excuses for Humphries or anyone at editorial at Marvel, but if that's what they're going for, then great. That's exactly what they should be going for. Anyone who was a fan of the movie that wants some more, it's pretty much been proven that movies don't bring people to comics, but that's okay. And on the chance that they do, this is where they're going to get pointed, and this is what they're going to enjoy, because this is essentially a version of what they saw on the big screen. So I'm still enjoying the Divided We Fall storyline. I believe the X-Men tie-in to that is next, and we'll see if that's just as accessible to new readers as the Ultimates was, and even Ultimate Spider-Man was. So hopefully it's just as new reader friendly as that was, but I will let you guys know, because I'm really enjoying this storyline and I intend to check it out. From Marvel's Ultimate Universe, we now travel to the land of Super Dinosaur, number 13. If I could only pick one word to describe this series, it would be fun, and then fun 2 more times. This all-ages book from Robert Kirkman continues to impress me. All ages and Robert Kirkman might catch you by surprise, since most people now know Robert Kirkman as the writer of The Walking Dead. But the guy just knows how to write comics, and he brings that to everything he does, whether it's Walking Dead or whether it's Super Dinosaur. Add in some great cartooning from artist Jason Howard, and this book is just way too much fun for its own good. Anyone my age, or maybe a little older, feeling nostalgic about wanting toys and cartoons to be the way they used to be, this is the series for you. It's chock full of what I loved in cartoons as a kid, and what the good there are good cartoons out there right now, and what those cartoons possess, Super Dinosaur has in spades. Great, fun characters, really exciting action, plenty of inventions and vehicles and things that would make great toys if this had a toy line, and I really wish this had a toy line. I wish this had a cartoon. I, at this point, cannot get enough Super Dinosaur. So like I said, if you're feeling nostalgic, if you're looking for something maybe for your kids, if you've got kids that are kind of at that age where they're almost reading or somewhere in there, and you want to show them something that'll recapture how you felt as a kid, Super Dinosaur, you can't do any better than it, quite frankly. Great, all ages, and again, a wonderful example of the fact that all ages doesn't mean for kids. All ages means for everybody. And that's exactly what we have, and it's just a ton of fun, like I said, start to finish. Super Dinosaur is an absolute blast. If you're not reading it yet, I've been telling you to read it for some time. You're out of excuses. Everybody should be reading Super Dinosaur. Something else that everyone should be reading is The Rocketeer Cargo of Doom #1 by Mark Waid, with art by Chris Samney. And with that opening line, what else do I really need to say to you? If if the fact that it's Rocketeer written by Waid and drawn by Samney doesn't get you excited, I'm wasting my time. But just in case you need a little more motivation, Waid certainly is someone right now who everything he touches turns to gold. Look no further than Daredevil. This is no exception. Samney's art is perfect for the just prior to World War II time period that we're dealing with. And if you've been reading the Rocketeer adventures that IDW's been putting out for the last, I want to say the last year or so, maybe even longer than that, about the last year or so, then that was a great kind of refresher onto the Rocketeer character. Maybe you saw the Disney movie quite a long time ago, and you're like, hey, I remember the Rocketeer, that was cool. This is something you definitely want to check out. Waid does a great job. This is very much a setup issue, as any #1 of a miniseries would be. Great job of reintroducing you to these characters, and introduces us to a very legitimate new villain, which should be a lot of fun. So, Rocketeer Cargo of Doom, pretty much everything it was billed to be. I was excited about this series from the moment they announced it, and issue #1 certainly did not let me down. Well, if this week's episode had a theme, it would probably be fun, and that brings us to Star Trek #12, the conclusion to the truth about Tribbles. For those of you who may not know, the new Star Trek series takes place in the new universe established in the feature film from a few years ago. And since this comic series started, has basically been retelling classic episodes with the new cast. And it's been a ton of fun, and this one has been a shining, this story within the series, I should say, has been a shining example of how well that should work. Obviously, you take an episode like the classic Trouble with Tribbles and redo it with the new cast. You throw in plenty of great references back to the feature film, and you've got the makings of a great two-part story. As I mentioned, the callbacks to the feature film, when Kirk and Old Spock were marooned on Delta Vega and ended up running into Scotty, there was a Tribble in the background on one of his little workstations. Now, at what point he actually got it on board the Enterprise, we don't know, but it starts multiplying on the Enterprise. No, it doesn't actually, I'm sorry. Scotty sent it to his nephew at Starfleet Academy, where trying to recreate the experiment where he lost Admiral Archer's Beagle, Porthos. Another great callback to the movie, and it starts multiplying at Starfleet Academy. There's the planet where the Tribbles are from. The Klingons have set multiple explosives trying to blow the planet up because they hate the Tribbles so much. Not knowing what's going on, I think they accidentally bring one back, so they're all over the Enterprise, just like the classic episode. And Kirk has to not only figure out how to get rid of the Tribbles, but how to keep Scotty from basically being fired because Starfleet Academy is being overrun by Tribbles as well. Again, just great, an adaptation of a classic, I don't want to say it's an adaptation of the episode, but a great adaptation of the concept of Tribbles. Great callbacks to the movie. They referenced the other Spock a few times. And I've mentioned this before, but for anyone who's kind of just tuning in to Positively Nerdy and didn't listen to me before, this series has always done a great job of capturing the feel of the new movie. And, I mean, these characters really feel like the characters established in that film. And I think, and not everyone feels this way, obviously, and there are differences of opinions, but I think the movie did a great job of keeping one foot planted in the past and in tradition, and moving forward, boldly going where no one has gone before, and establishing something new. And I think that this two-part Tribble story, issues number 11 and 12, are a great example of that. Filming has finished, or not finished, maybe it's finished. They're actually filming, at least, the next Star Trek movie. So I would like to see, hopefully, that this series will start to work itself into like a lead into that feature film. Or what they'll probably do is keep this going and then have like another miniseries like they did with Countdown when the first feature film came around. So we'll have to see what happens with Star Trek moving forward from here. Alright, it all comes down to this. The 50th anniversary celebration of The Amazing Spider-Man in issue number 692. First thing, right off the bat, I was a little disappointed by the lack of creative talent on this issue, just from the cover, just solicitations. I'm like, why isn't everyone coming back to celebrate this? And it didn't bother me to the point of not getting it, obviously. I was just a little curious. I will say right off the bat, this more than made up for the massive disappointment that was this year's annual. This really felt like an old school annual. We had guest stars, we had a new status quo established. Slott did everything he was supposed to do in this issue and did it really, really well. He celebrates Spider-Man and what makes Spider-Man Spider-Man without ever pandering or taking the easy route. Like, we don't get an Uncle Ben flashback or a Gwen tearjerker, none of that. It was actually really refreshing, really great. It's incredibly new reader friendly, and yet takes place exactly in the continuity of what's going on now. If you have been reading all along, if you read the previous issue, this fits in line with that and will inevitably fit in line with the next issue. If you're just a sucker for anniversary issues, or you used to read Spider-Man and you thought, hey, it's Spidey's 50th anniversary, let me see what's going on, it's incredibly accessible to you. And hopefully, I would think, would suck you into, hey, let's see how Spidey's doing these days and keep you buying. Perhaps most importantly, it sets the stage for the next chapter, at least the next storyline. We have an all-new character introduced. I'm not sold on the character yet, but Slott did enough to make me curious about the character. I'm not completely on board. What we have here, according to Mr. Fantastic anyway, in one of the issue's many guest appearances, is the Marvel Universe's first alpha-level powered being. Apparently, guys like the Sentry or the Hulk at his worst, things like that, are Omega-level threats, and this is even stronger. And at the moment, he's kind of just dopey little teenager. He's very much, and this is what I love about what Slott did, because he went all the way back to the beginning of Spider-Man without the pandering, like I said. But he's basically this generation's Peter Parker. He's kind of a dweeb. He's not noticed at school. He gets pushed around by bullies, but he doesn't have Peter's good qualities either. He's not a great student. He's not helping take care of things at home with his aunt and uncle. He just is, really. And there's a big experiment down at Horizon Labs that Peter invites Midtown High to come see, and things don't go the way they're supposed to, obviously. Again, great callback, because isn't that how Spider-Man got his powers in the first place? He went and saw a science experiment, the radioactive spider, and the rest is history. Well, this new character, Omega, I forget the kid's name, or Alpha, I forget the kid's actual name, has absorbed the power of Peter's quote-unquote Parker particles, trying to create the new, Mr. Fantastic's unstable molecules, or the Pym particle. Pete thinks he's discovered his own version of that. And basically they decide that this kid's not a threat to himself and shouldn't be a threat to anyone else around him with the right supervision. And whether it's because they believe he will actually be the best person or they're punishing him for the experiment, they decide that he's going to be trained by Spider-Man. And Spider-Man then tells the kid how powerful he is and how much responsibility he now has. Peter is no Uncle Ben, unfortunately. The guy doesn't go rogue, but he says, look, you're in the Avengers' new sidekick program. I'm your hero. You're my sidekick. I'm going to teach you how to do this thing. But in telling the kid how powerful he was, he certainly made him overconfident. And when one of the Mole Man's critters comes popping up on Yancey Street and Spider-Man and the Fantastic Four are there to try and take it down, Alpha takes the creature down in one punch, and the crowd goes wild, so to speak, and he thinks he's awesome. So now Spider-Man has to deal with basically a younger, more brash version of him. And again, it was just a great way to kind of celebrate what made Spider-Man Spider-Man by introducing this new quote-unquote hero into the mix. There are a couple of backup stories. One is about Spider-Man, and one is about what it is to be Spider-Man without having Spider-Man in it. It starts off with the classic Spider-Man No More moment where Spider-Man dumps the costume in a trash can and is walking away, and someone just comes and puts the costume, like a petty criminal kind of guy, comes and puts the costume on, tries to rob a convenience store, doesn't work, goes to see his daughter as Spider-Man, and because she's sick, I think she's sick, she really wants to see Spider-Man. And basically, in the span of a couple pages, this guy's like, I'm not cut out to be a hero. It takes a lot more than a costume. And throws it back away in the same garbage can. I thought that was a nice callback to a great moment in Spider-Man's history, and just the not-so-subtle reference to the fact that it takes a lot for Spider-Man to be Spider-Man, and it's not an easy life that he has chosen for himself. The other backup was just a ton of fun, and is one of those day in the life of Peter Parker, nothing ever goes right. Woe, not really woe to be me, but just, man, I have to be somewhere, but this building is on fire, and this kid's getting bullied, and all these things that don't go right, and yet Spider-Man kind of turns out to make the most out of it. He befriends the kid that got bullied, kind of unloads his problem on them while letting the kid unload his problems back at him. Takes him around to meet the Avengers and things like that. It's just a nice, touching story, and really more about Spider-Man than about what makes Spider-Man Spider-Man or what Spider-Man does on a daily basis. This is just one of those great, like, Spider-Man just wants to do the right thing, is really all it boils down to. And I think that's, both these backup stories were great additions to the main story, and when all is said and done, this was a great anniversary issue without all the pomp and circumstance, which is what I thought it should have been, and it really was. It was just handled so well that it's hard to get mad at it. It was very understated, which Slott doesn't do normally. So I guess I was expecting Marvel and Slott and company to really make a bigger deal out of this than they did, and I have to say, after reading it, I'm very thankful that they just kind of had a really quiet way about it and let Spider-Man be Spider-Man, and it was just a joy to read as a Spider-Man fan. It was great. It didn't bring a tear to my eye or do anything like that. It was just good, and it was a lot of fun. And like I said, it had guest stars galore and all sorts of cool things happening. And like I said, I'm not completely sold on Alpha as a character yet, but I'm curious, and that's enough. You want to tune in, you want to get people to buy the next issue, and well, I would have anyway because I love Spider-Man. But certainly, I would think that Alpha's an intriguing character for people out there. So we'll see what happens there. I can't help but think ahead. I don't want to, but with Marvel Now right around the corner and all the big announcements that have come from that, why haven't we heard a thing about what's happening with Spider-Man in Marvel Now? I refuse to believe that they're just going to let it keep going because nothing else is just keeping going. Even great series like Fantastic Four are changing. I guess we haven't heard anything about Daredevil either, which I guess would be other Marvel's big series right now. So we'll see, but this is also Marvel Now. I think they said it's going to be a November to February thing, so if it's Spider-Man's getting the change in January or February, we wouldn't have heard about it yet. So fingers crossed, though, that Spider-Man gets to keep being Spider-Man, because I think it's really one of the best things that Marvel's doing right now, even if a lot of people aren't talking about it. So that probably would have been my pick for the best comic of the week, if you couldn't tell from all the gushing I just did, but I need something to call the best comic of the week, and again, that is up to you guys. So if comics, Star Wars, or autographs intrigue you at all, please don't forget to enter my contest. Again, all you have to do is get a hold of me, either on Facebook or probably on Twitter would be the easiest way to do it, is at Positively Nerdy. And yeah, just let me know what I should call the best comic of the week. And then next week when we do comic reviews, if I get enough responses by then and I get one I like by then, I will announce, obviously, when I start the podcast, what the winner of the new name is going to be. So thank you all for tuning in, and we will talk to you again soon.